So welcome everyone, welcome. Hello, the leaves are turning shades of red and gold, pumpkin spices everywhere. So that means it must be time for our October speaker series. Please forgive us in having to delay this program by a week or so. We had our magnificent moderator, Kim Hughes, was happy to go to the White House last week. So I'm going to show you exactly what it looked like, which was kind of incredible, right? Oh, hold on. So there we go. So there she is. So, and of course, you know, as she was there to celebrate the 2020 and 2021 new Teachers of the Year, the State Teachers of the Year at the White House. And of course, when an invitation like that happens and you are summoned to the White House, you absolutely go. So congratulations, Kim. We are so happy to have seen you. And this is a wonderful selfie, by the way. She is the master of selfies at this point. So yes, thank you very much. All right, welcome everyone. We are the Center for Future Educators at TCNJ, and our goal is to recruit future educators from middle and high schools around the state of New Jersey. I'm your host, Dr. Jean Del Coley, the Executive Director of the Center for Future Educators at TCNJ. The purpose of our speaker series is to provide future educators in New Jersey the opportunity to see the many facets of the profession, and we hope to provide just a little inspiration. All of our speaker series events are recorded and available on the website to view. We will have the Q&A box available for later in the program, and this is a reminder that this program is being recorded and will be available on the CFE website next week at futureeducators.tcnj.edu. It takes collaboration to make the CFE and its programming possible. The center is graciously funded by the NJEA, and we are grateful that their support means we can bring programming like this to you. Today's program is our Preparing for College edition, and we'll talk about what steps you should be taking while still in high school in order to become an educator. Education is a small world, and while you will hear about 3 different types of educator preparation programs located across the state of New Jersey, you will also hear how these very different programs collaborate to help strengthen the education profession for everyone. Listen in to learn about these dynamic programs and what you can expect as a future educator. Our 3 guests today are leaders in their respective colleges and universities. First, we have Danielle Epps, the Director of Teacher Education, Admissions, Recruitment, and Diversity at Montclair State University. Next, we have Joseph Martinelli, the Interim Dean of the College of Education and Human Services at Seton University. And finally, we have our very own Suzanne McCotter, the Dean of the School of Education here at the College of New Jersey. Last, but certainly not least, we have our magnificent moderator, Kimberly Dickstein Hughes, the master of selfies with presidents and the enchantress of English, who also happens to be the 2020 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year and an English Language Arts teacher at Haddonfield Memorial High School. Kim, take it away.
Jeannie, you are a very difficult act to follow. Thank you for that very gracious introduction. I am humbled to be the moderator of these ongoing speaker series. Today we have a really great call prepared for you. And before we hear from each of our speakers, I'd love for Danielle, Joe, and Suzanne in that order to give us a really quick 30-second introduction of who you are and what you want our audience to know about you before we go into more in-depth presentations. So we'll go Danielle, Joe, and then Suzanne.
Not a problem. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danielle Epps. I am the Director of Teacher Education, Admissions, Recruitment, and Diversity at Montclair State University, where I get the pleasure to work within the Center of Pedagogy that really focuses around education, all of the resources and services in tandem to the teacher education program here at Montclair. So I look forward to telling you more about our program and more about what I do.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm Joe Martinelli. I'm the Interim Dean in the College of Education and Human Services at Seton University. Prior to becoming the Interim Dean, I served for 9 years as the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, which entailed certification and every other academic issue that came up. Prior to that, I was the chair of our Education Studies Department, which is undergraduate education, and I came in as a faculty member in our Instructional Design and Technology program. And other than that, I look forward to telling you about Seton Hall and our program, and I'm going to pass this over to Suzanne.
Hi there, I'm Suzanne McCotter. I'm the Dean of the School of Education at the College of New Jersey. You see my beautiful building behind us. Before I came here as dean about 5 years ago, I was actually the associate dean at Montclair State University, but Danielle, I don't think you and I overlapped. But before that, and where my heart really is professionally, I was a teacher. I taught in Edison and Rahway in New Jersey, and I also taught in Georgia and Pennsylvania. I was a middle school teacher mostly, and when I wake up in the middle of the night, if I'm in a hotel and I don't really know where I am, I think I'm supposed to get up and go teach 6th grade still. So that's where my heart is. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you so much. You are professionals on passing the Zoom baton. That was really impressive. So we are going to start with hearing from Danielle from Montclair State University, who will tell us a little bit about the education program there.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm going to give you just a quick little snapshot into our program. And if I move very quickly, don't worry, I'm glad to share these resources with anyone at a later time. But our teacher education program in Montclair State is a model of excellence in teacher education. We really focus on having a program that will help develop our students in various ways, as far as through our faculty that are distinguished in the field. They are recognized nationally, and I learned today, even internationally, in teacher education. And they focus on really making sure our students understand innovative techniques, but also are aware about cutting edge things like social justice, and really becoming those leaders in that field of education, like I said, to help change and be a part of that future change. We have staff here, which I'll talk about a little bit in some of the resources and services that are dedicated to students to ensure of their development and their preparation to go out in the field and work. So our graduates are graduating at a high rate. As far as certified graduates, we're graduating about over 500 graduates a year in teacher education, which is great. But more importantly, we have a high percentage of them who are employed with 1 or 2 certifications. And I'll explain that in a second what I mean. And so our students have truly high cumulative GPAs that ensure that they're not only subject area experts in maybe their in teacher education, but also in their majors and fields that they're looking to teach within. So our program options that we offer, like I said earlier, where students can leave with multiple certifications, that is through our combined program. We have a program where students are able to leave with a bachelor's and a master's degree, as well as 2 certifications, whether in P3, K6, or P12, as well as the certification for teaching students with disability. Now, some students may decide that may not be a path they're looking to do right now, and that's understandable. We work with students in a single certification of all those areas to help them prepare for whatever their area of interest may be. And so within that, our students can also explore other concentrations or add other certifications on, like teaching students English as a second language. So we do really offer a wide array of things to really help ensure our students are well versed and have plenty of resources to expand their career goals. Now, when students are looking to come to Montclair, they're really looking at a sequential fashion that looks like what you see on the screen when it comes to a single certification. And I always like to point this out because a lot of students always wonder, how long does it take? Because our teacher program at Montclair, they do have to apply to outside of their admissions process to Montclair. There's a separate admissions process. Students can do as early as the 2nd semester of their sophomore year. And we work with students from their freshman year to identify those who have expressed interest to really start to educate them on the teacher ed process so they know what this sequence is like and what to expect. So this is just a little snapshot of what it will look like in a single certification, as far as, again, for in 3 semesters or 4. And then we also have a snapshot of what it looks like for those students who are looking at a combined program, because like I said, we have many students interested in that. And as you see, it moves through a very similar format of what you saw on the previous screen, but you also see that extra year of coursework focusing on their graduate level coursework. So this shows how a student will complete with their bachelor's and their master's degree. Now, along with that, we do have admission requirements, like I said, because students do have to apply to the program outside of admissions. And so it's very important that students understand they have to choose an accepted major, which within each level, there are designated majors. For example, for P3, there is 1 major identified. K6, we have about 10 or 12 between single and combined. And for the P12, K-6, I'm sorry, we have 10 or 12. And then for P12, we have 22 in single cert and 14 in combined. And so it's very important students understand that, because these requirements will differentiate between the two. But the most important thing is being in a major that's affiliated, having the GPA requirements that we're looking for, not just their overall, but also in their major, completing prerequisite coursework, because we want to introduce our students to the education field and make sure they kind of understand a little bit more about what it will entail, but also obtaining the standardized test scores that are required by the state of New Jersey. And I know all of us will talk a lot about that today, so we'll definitely get more information into that later on. But the next part is we want to make sure our students are involved outside of the classroom, because we know as much as they are going to be learning a lot in their classes about teacher education, we want to make sure they're well-rounded. They're building that resume early and often. And so we have volunteer opportunities for students to be able to get involved on and off campus, including our affiliation with Jumpstart, which is a literacy program focused on preschool. And we have schools that we work with in Montclair area. We also have membership for student organizations where students can get involved. For example, one of the individuals on my team is the campus advisor for the Future Educators Association. So we have that direct relationship, as well as even having honor societies, associations, but moreover, we hire student ambassadors. We want our students to also champion our program and be a part of that experience as we help to promote and bring up the next class of students. Next, we have dedicated advisement and career services. So we have these two services for teacher ed students specifically. So therefore, they're getting direct advisement on their pathway to become a teacher, to make sure they're following the sequence of courses and being prepared, but also that we're making sure they're professionally ready, that we're doing mock interviews, getting their resume ready. So all the other resources and services I was speaking to you about, that they know how to put it together to be able to get that job and participate in our Educator Expo that we typically have in the spring, where we have employers and school districts come right on campus. And then also there's scholarships. We highlight this because it's important for students to know that there are other opportunities to continue to earn additional money to defray your costs in your education for those high achievement and GPAs I mentioned earlier. And that students have the opportunity to teacher ed, as well as we talk about Teach Grant and departmental scholarships. And then lastly, before I conclude, is our diversity initiatives. We really try to focus on providing initiatives for students that may be students of color. And so some of the ways we do that is through our Future Teacher of Color program, to work with prospective students coming into the program at Montclair, to really give them an environment of peers and mentorship from other students who are just in the program and students who seek to be in the program, and doing programming all around that are social but also professional. We have our Red Hawk Rising program, which is our partnership with Newark Board of Education, and it also has a dual enrollment component along with their CTE program around teacher education. And then just to skip through, our Holmes Honors program, which is a mentoring program that works kind of in tandem, building upon a Future Teachers of Color program, to really help students to have that next level of mentorship, from, okay, a student who is now in the program to now a student who's completed and is in their first year of their profession, and building that relationship and network. So if you have any questions and you wanted to know, if you want to take a screenshot or snapshot, this is all of our contact information for myself and my staff in my department, who really work with the pre-advisement of the teacher education program here at Montclair to help expose, enrich, and recruit prospective students. So if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to us.
Danielle, thank you for that comprehensive overview of your program, but also everything that is involved in getting into the classroom, all the work prior to that. And so I have a question actually, but for Suzanne and Joe, you can also chime in. You had said multiple times, we work with students. We work with students. And so for folks on the call, they might not really understand what the role of a dean or director is at a school of education. So I would really be curious as to how you see your role in developing teachers. And this Yeah, go ahead, Suzanne.
I can start, Kim. I kind of see the role of dean as an umbrella role. There are lots of things that fall underneath the umbrella of being a dean. It's kind of like being the principal of a large school. Our jobs are not focused on one specific thing, but we're responsible for a lot of things, and we have staff who work with us. So for example, we have a certification officer at TCNJ, and she's responsible for making sure that students work through a certification. We have someone who thinks about accreditation and making sure we live up to the standards of the teacher preparation profession, and someone who does placements for student teaching. And then we have things like fundraising and admissions and marketing and all different kinds of things that fall under the umbrella of being a dean. So I think one of the things I can say with certainty is that I am almost never bored in my role as a dean. I've got one of those careers where every few years I've gone on to the next exciting thing. And I've been doing this for 5 years. That's a long time for me. And I am not ready to stop yet. I love what I do. It's a lot of different things.
Yeah. If I can jump in with on Susan a little bit. Someone who's been like on all levels as there is that you can do it in a college. The dean is the person that has to connect everyone. So at Seton Hall, we have our professional family therapy, our psychology. We have our ed leadership program. We have our undergrad education program. And the dean is the one that gets to know students on all different levels. My office door is open. Students will come in and talk. Being that we're a smaller school, I mean, overall, the College of Ed at Seton Hall, I've had the privilege of knowing many students who still email me back and forth. And today I got one from a fella that I taught almost 10, 15 years ago, who's now going for a job, and how can you help me? And the beauty of being the dean and being someone at this level, and I think Susan will agree, we get to know a lot of students. We get to know a lot of faculty. We get people connected across the country. We talk to our alums. And because I've taught and I still teach and keep in touch, I have connection with alums. And I think the alums are the selling point of our programs. And it's a great thing. And also, I think, Susan, probably the things that we do, we are the connectors of the provost to the colleges. So we deal with academic issues that come up every day. And I can honestly say no day is the same, and we should always expect the unexpected when you're the dean.
And I'll chime in and say, so I actually have been in higher ed for about 13 years, but in my experience, I've also worked in various institutions, including community colleges. So this position as the director at Montclair really allows me to bridge those relationships and bring that experience to this role, to be able to really focus on the aspect of how do we create unique ways and unique pipelines for students to come into teacher education in the ways that they look at our institutions, from the traditional student that some of you may be in high school, but also to the community college student where some of you may be looking for your next step. And so this really provides me a way to collaborate with every aspect that Suzanne said, where it's never a same day. And so you're doing everything from presenting the students at an open house and talking to parents and families, getting them excited about your institution, but you're also getting the opportunity to collaborate and affect change and what that looks like for those future students with faculty and other colleagues across the institution. And so I really enjoy that, and how I can bring that to also build relationships externally outside the institution as well.
Yeah, and I can build on a little bit of what Joe and Danielle have said. So I love to be able to make those connections that you were both talking about, to introduce people, to figure out different ways. The other thing that I love is when people come to me with really good ideas. And what I can do is help them figure out how to make those ideas happen, how to lift obstacles out of their way, how to figure out how they can pay for things, how to do those things, because they're willing to work. They have great ideas. I work with fantastic people. We all do. They just don't know what they need to do in order to put a great idea into place. And so I love being the person who can help them figure that out.
So what I'm hearing from a lot of you is like, this is a really unique role. So what inspired you to take on this leadership role? Like, it seems like you have to wear so many hats, and you're the umbrella, and then you're the connector, and then you are so many things for so many people. What inspired you to take on this leadership at the collegiate level?
Can I grab that one first? I'll tell you a little bit. Okay, that's a great question. It's funny, I've been in at the college level for 36 years. Prior to coming to Seton Hall 22 years ago, I was at William Patterson for 15. So, and I've done different things at both institutions, from regular administrator to university relations to teaching to whatever. When the opportunity came up to go from chair to what we call the front end or the dean's office, and I got the offer to be the first thing, and let me backpedal. When you became a chair, you saw it a little bit higher umbrella, right? You saw things a little differently. And then when you leave that and you become an associate dean, you're a little higher and you see things a lot differently. And then when the opportunity came up to become the interim dean at this point, I said, wait a minute, I enjoy this challenge. And it is a challenge. I'm not going to say it's not all rainbows and unicorns. I love meeting people. This opportunity is a great opportunity. And I said, I feel that I can contribute to the success of our College of Education in human services. And you have to feel that way. And I think that's the big part. And you have to be able to understand people and provide leadership. And leadership comes in many different styles.
And I would add to that on the leadership point that you said, Joe, that it's really that other piece that a lot of times in leadership, no one says to you about developing, mentoring, and really guiding individuals and people, where they may be the people that are doing the process and doing the frontline work, where we may be at this level strategizing the vision, the goals, or the future projections of where our areas, our programs, our institutions may be going. And so it's really being able to be a part of that, to see those individuals as they ascend to their professional levels, and how you help to prepare them to do that. Where a lot of individuals may not think about these roles as they think about the administrative part, but they don't think about that people part, because we do the work for the students. We understand that's the fundamental core of the work we do. Where like commencement is our celebration. We love commencement. Why? Because it reminds us of the why we do what we do, the why we do it day in and day out, and all of that. But it also is the other aspects of when you get to see the people that work with you and that work for you, and you see them win and grow. And I think that's one of the great things about leadership, to Joe's point, that excites me about roles like this.
I love what you said, Joe, about getting that bigger and bigger perspective. When I was at Montclair State, I had a colleague, Eunice Grapaldi. She worked with me in the educational leadership department there. And she always talked about the process of preparing educational leaders. It's preparing them to step off of the dance floor and up to the balcony, where they can see more of what's going on. And that's what I felt like with every leadership position that I've taken, that I'm higher up on the balcony so I can see more and understand more of what's going on. And I think this is pretty common among some teachers. I was never the person who said, no, there's a committee to join. Yes. You want to be the leader of this? Yes. I always have wanted to do that. So when my belly is telling me to say yes to something, I say yes to something. And that's just led me to different kinds of leadership opportunities.
And I would just say, and I was going to add to that the one thing is, for many of you who are looking at teaching, there's many ways to reinvent yourself in this field of education. That I've talked to many people, of counselors and teachers, who also are excited and enticed by the higher ed part of the world, and how maybe they can get involved, whether it's they start adjuncting or they pivot their career, and not always realize how their work in the classroom or their work in the K-12 world can really help on a different end to prepare other individuals for future educators, like Suzanne talked about her experience. So it always is something to think about on how you're going to be a continuous learner of your field and how you can reinvent yourself, like Suzanne said.
I want to springboard off one thing Danielle said, and it's so true, to come in as I think education major is the greatest major there is, because you come out with a professional degree. But I want to tell a true story. It's my son, who's 28, went through our program. He finished with elementary K-6, special ed, middle school social studies, and middle school English, right? And science. So he finished with all these certs, got offered a job right away, right out of school, taught 1 year in middle school, came home and said, Mom and Dad, I don't want to teach. Well, everybody's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do, right? You just got all these certs. He reinvented himself. He is now working with Hackensack University Medical School, where he goes and actually teaches doctors to become professors or teach. So what has benefited him was his background in education with the planning, with the ability to logically think and come up with concepts. So an education degree is a foundation, can serve as a foundation for many, many, many careers, in addition to hopefully a long career in education.
Joe, thank you for sharing that story. Before I have you tell us a little bit about your program, I just have to reiterate something Danielle said about the people part of this profession. And I'm a classroom educator. I've been in this building since 2008. And for me, I come back because of the people, whether that's my colleagues or my students, community. But I feel that so deeply that this is a people profession. And we are in the business of turning around productive people and good citizens. And it's so exciting to be part of this journey. And I'm really feeling everything you said as someone who's just started adjuncting. It feels very relatable. So with that, I'm going to turn this to Joe. Joe, I'd love to hear a little bit about Seton Hall. You have 5 minutes, good sir.
5 minutes, good sir. I'm gonna, I guess I could put slides, but I just want to talk for a little bit about Seton Hall because we have similar programs. So Seton Hall is very unique. When you come into Seton Hall, you come in immediately as an education major, so which is a little different than other schools. So as a freshman, you come in and you take at least 2 education classes your first semester, along with your core. And that's a difference. We are a small program. They take that into pride with that. So when you come in as a Seton Hall freshman, you have your freshman advisor through our program, and then you also are assigned an academic advisor. So our students are given 2 advisors that guide them through their career. And then we go, as our students come in, we have our students so we can get you out in the field. Traditionally, our education majors go out in the field as a sophomore, which is really neat because that gives them an experience and a taste of what it's like in a classroom. So we have a clinical office, which everybody has, because I know all our clinical directors get together and they discuss as to what's going on. So we have a full clinical director and they help place our students in their programs. So our elementary eds, all of our elementary ed students also, we have a combined elementary special ed. So they, in addition to coming with a K-6 elementary cert, they also pick up their K through 12 TSOD or special ed certification, which really makes it highly desirable. They also have a full second major, which could be in a teachable content, such as English, social studies, math, science, or we also have what we call SOBS or psychology, as long as they pick up their liberal arts core. We urge a teachable major because they can also pick up, and you guys know, we all know it, the middle school certification. I always tell my parents when they come to open house and the students, just think of 2 numbers, 15 and 30, 15 for middle school cert, 30 for your content minimum to get your K through 12 cert. So if you can think of that, that works really well. It's a simple mathematical thing. Our students do, we do suburban, urban, and placements are required. We also have placements in private schools or Catholic schools. We are a Catholic institution. What else? We have the full slate of scholarships that are there. We also have scholarships available out of the College of Ed through my wonderful Associate Dean, Omaira Rocho, who can work with students and guide them on the different scholarships that are available before they're even here. So that's that admissions part. Secondary, we have a full secondary ed program, which of course covers all the teachable areas, math, as usual, math, English, social studies, science. We also have music and art in our secondary ed track. And we also have some specialty programs, which are kind of cool and unique. We have a 4+2 with DBSL, which is speech language. So our elementary majors can come in and say, I want to do the speech language track. And as long as they keep their GPA at a certain level, they will have automatic admission into our graduate speech language program. It's a very popular major. We also have two other majors which are relatively new that are doing great. We have TESOL, which I think Danielle talked about their TESOL at Montclair State. We have it also. And we have what we call ABA, which is Applied Behavioral Analysis, which can be joined in from our undergrads can come in and take ABA classes as juniors and finish up their ABA within 1 year of graduating. I had one young lady last year who finished up not just ABA, but TESOL and her elementary cert within a year and a half. And she's now rolling. She just told me, I'm rolling into the doctorate program. And being that we have that doctorate in ed leadership, some students go on to get either an EDS, which puts them, what I always say, halfway towards a doctorate, or they go further on and get their EDD, which is, they go into that program. So it's a full operating program. We're accredited by CAPE. We're accredited middle states. I think we're all accredited about the same. And what I like about our faculty is they're very innovative. They're creative. We understand the needs of our students. Our students will come to us and say, we develop friendships. In fact, as the dean, this year we had a faculty member who couldn't come to campus. And I actually went on and was in the classroom, moderating the classroom. And the students are like, wow, you're here doing this. This is cool, because I keep in touch with our students. And that's it on our program. We also have a full KDP, Kappa Delta Pi. We have the academic. Our students are urged to do volunteer through our DOVE group, Division of Volunteer Efforts. And again, Seton Hall students come out with a lot of certifications and are, outstanding.
I always think it's funny on these calls, Joe, I'm always raising my hand, like someone's about to call on me.
Yeah.
But something I heard, as I'm listening to you explain your program and Danielle, like there's some nuance between the programs, but you had also mentioned how your clinical directors work together. So I'm wondering, this can be for one person or multiple can answer for me. Like, do the college and university dean and directors work together? Do you have a network? Like, how do you decide? How do you do X, Y, and Z? And what does that communication look like?
Suzanne, you want to take that one? You've been doing it longer.
Yep, happily. So we have a formal way of working together, the NJSTOY, the New Jersey Association of Colleges of Teacher Education. And that is a group that meets monthly. It's for deans, directors, and other leaders of teacher education programs. We usually meet at Rutgers when we're meeting in person, although for the past year and a half, 2 years, it's been on Zoom. I see your Scarlet R. And that is a time when we can get together and really talk through issues that are statewide concerning state issues. Sure. And then from that group, there are subcommittees. So there's one on diversity. There's one on looking at the requirements. There's one on accreditation. So there are subgroups that get together, and the Field Directors Forum is closely associated with it, but it deals very specifically. It is the field directors and people who are in charge of clinical experiences meeting to talk specifically about the issues that really relate to putting students out in the field. And then there are informal ways of getting together. There's sometimes just the deans will get together to talk about things, just the deans of the schools in New Jersey. And then there are also things that the State Department of Education will do. So for right now, a lot of my time has been going to working. We've got a collaborative across the state to think about the topic of diversifying the teacher workforce, increasing the ethno-racial diversity of teachers in the state of New Jersey. I'm so grateful that the state is doing this, because for me, it's always been one of the most important things for me to think about as a dean. And there are so many things that come across my desk that even though I know it's up here with importance, it never gets up there with urgency, because it's just always something that's there. So the fact that the state has pulled this collaborative together has made it much more urgent, because I have specific tasks to do, specific data to look for, and deadlines to meet. So that's another way that we're all getting together to share best practices and look for common threads. Joe or Danielle, you want to add to that?
No, I think that was really good, and bringing up that new initiative is really great, so
Yeah.
people understand, because when I imagine there'll be some information released from our work at some point, and this conversation will definitely be keep going. So I really look forward to seeing kind of what comes to fruition and learning those best practices. I think that provides us an opportunity for those who have been in the field very long, like both of my colleagues here and myself, who is a little bit newer, to be able to get together and start to share the things we're seeing, the trends, the challenges, and also the things that are working. Because we oftentimes talk about the negative things, but we also want to talk about the positive things. And I think this gives us a chance to highlight that as well.
Mhm. And I think it's unique New Jersey with the close relationship that we have with the New Jersey Department of Ed. Uh, I've not, and I was from Pennsylvania originally, I've not experienced that anywhere else. New Jersey is such a small state that there is a connection with all of the universities. That doesn't exist in the university level in Pennsylvania, which is so wide and big. And it's really a plus for New Jersey and for the teaching educating programs. And the DOA is amazing to work with. We have liaisons there that we work with.
And I would also add, Kim, that there's not a sense, not that I perceive, there's not a sense of competition among the deans of teacher education programs in the state. It's a very, very collaborative group. So if I'm thinking about a new initiative, those are the people I bring it to. And people don't say, why did you get that? Why didn't I get that? It's really like, okay, how can we work together on this? So it's a very collaborative group.
Mhm.
I think that's really special that NJACTE really does reflect New Jersey being stronger together. And like, that's really powerful. I had the unique opportunity to speak to this organization when I was the state teacher of the year working with the DOE. And it just, the vibe in that room is like people coming together because they know our profession is the profession of all professions. And what can we do to build that up and build it better, which is really exciting. Well, that was awesome to kind of hear that like team morale. I think you should all like high five each other on the Zoom. Well, I'm gonna pass the baton to Susan for our final speaker on TCNJ, and then I have a few more questions to wrap up the call.
Excellent. So TCNJ, the College of New Jersey, has a long history in the state. We were established in 1855 as the state normal school, and then we changed names a couple times, became Trenton State College, and then eventually in the 90s became the College of New Jersey. But it's been the thing we've been doing since 1855 is preparing teachers. We are a public college. We're smaller than either Seton Hall or Montclair State. We've got about 7,000 students and primarily undergraduate programs. We do have some master's programs. They are mostly in the School of Education, but almost all of our students are undergraduate students. As you, audience, are looking at schools, one of the questions you want to ask is about graduation rates. TCNJ has really good graduation rates. 76% of our students graduate in 4 years and 86% graduate in 6 years. And those are really good when you're thinking about where to go to college. That's important. And what that tells me is that faculty and staff really know students. They pay attention to them. They help them think about what they need to do to graduate on time and how they can make sure that all of their experiences count for something. Students like Seton Hall, students are admitted as education majors. So when you apply to TCNJ, you have to say that you want to major in elementary education and Spanish, or early childhood and psychology, or secondary and history. You decide what majors you want when you come in. And then throughout your program, we have transition points that are linked to clinical field experiences to make sure you're doing things like getting the test scores you're going to need in order to get certified, and that you're doing all your background checks and you're getting in the hours that you need. We also have an orientation class for all first-year students in both education classes and content areas, so that you get that orientation to the profession and to your major as a first-year student. Because we are mostly an undergraduate institution, we have a strong focus at TCNJ on undergraduate research. So one of the things, my son is here, he's a senior at TCNJ, and one of the reasons he chose TCNJ was because he was interested in being a student in the sciences. And he knew if he went to a bigger institution, research opportunities are typically given to graduate students. So if you want to use the fancy electron microscope with a physics professor, you've got to wait in line behind the doctoral student and the master's degree student before you can get to it. But if there are no master's degree or doctoral students, you get to use it. You get to do that research. He switched majors. He's a philosophy major now. Didn't matter for him, but it might matter for you. So if you want to get involved in research as an undergraduate, that's something to think about. Another thing that we have that's pretty unique at TCNJ is the opportunity to do global student teaching. So when you're an education major, it's pretty hard to study abroad because your schedule is jam-packed. You've got a lot of clinical field experiences that you want to go out and do. So we have relationships with international schools all over the world. We have students who do half of their student teaching semester in an international school in places like Rome or Johannesburg or Morocco or Finland. We have a lot of places that you can go and do 7 to 8 weeks of your student teaching, of your full-time student teaching. Our faculty still supervise you. They come over and they see you, and they also observe you via video. You never go by yourself. The schools are all English speaking. So it's an opportunity to get that study abroad in as an education major. We also, in additional to many of the typical majors that you have, we have a couple of programs that are really quite unique. One of them is it's iSTEM, Integrated Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. So that can be, you can be an education major and an iSTEM major, which gives you some experience in all of those fields and allows you to get that middle school certification in science or mathematics, but you also get some experience in engineering and design theory. That is a major that when principals and superintendents are looking for elementary school teachers, they love to find those iSTEM majors because they know they'll have that experience. We also have a minor in environmental sustainability education. So one of the new sets of standards in the state of New Jersey is learning about how to teach climate change to students. So we've got a minor in environmental sustainability education that really helps you think about, as a teacher, how do you make sure those climate change standards are included in your teaching? We have a major in technology education. When I went to school, that was called SHOP, but now it's something very different. It's in the School of Engineering, and it prepares people to be technology educators and really teach about design theory and engineering and things like that. We also certified people to be teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing, which are needed all over the state, but there aren't many programs that prepare that. So that's something if you're interested in working with students who are deaf or hard of hearing. And that includes instruction in American Sign Language. Many majors require a second language, and no matter what your major is, American Sign Language can be your second language, and you can take 3 or more semesters of American Sign Language. I'm sure that Seton Hall and Montclair, I know Montclair, I'm sure Seton Hall has the same, that we have many 5-year programs in addition to 4-year programs, which are undergraduate program certification. We have 5-year programs that lead to both bachelor's and master's degrees and certification in more than one area. And those at TCNJ are focused in areas of special education and urban education. And then one last thing, Kim, because I'm afraid my time is running out. We also have a program called Career and Community Studies. Career and Community Studies is a program for young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's a certificate program, and it's for people who have finished high school and would not typically go on to post-secondary education. It's part of the School of Education here. Those students are fully included in everything that we do here at TCNJ. They're in clubs. We just got a big award for our unified sports teams, where students with and without disabilities can play sports together. And our typically admitted students, often our education students, serve as mentors for those students. So they might go to classes with them and help to modify the curriculum and the assignments, or they might live in their houses and be house mentors for them. And that is one way that a lot of our students in education programs get some experience working with people who have special needs that they can put on their resumes and really focus on when they're looking for their first jobs. So that's our Career and Community Studies program. I'll take a breath and turn it back over to you, Kim.
I have to say, all 3 of you, I want to attend all of your schools. And Rutgers, shout out, I love you. I had a great experience in my 5-year program at Rutgers, but I mean, I'll be applying to all of these programs after listening to this call because there's something for everyone. And I think that's really special too. And so for the folks on this call, and I think I have a few more questions before I turn the program back over to Jeannie. So maybe we have one person answer each of these as we go through, and whoever jumps first wins the question. But so it seems to me that there are a few high school students on this call. So what would you say to high school students who are freshman, sophomore, junior? How could they be preparing now to become a teacher? Like, what should they do now in preparation of that path?
Well, I'll jump in and take that. So one of the major things I know a lot of students are questioning and thinking about, especially for sophomores, you might have just taken about a week or two ago your PSATs. For juniors, you might have taken them again as well. I hope you did. But if not, you are thinking about taking the SATs or not. And many students are questioning that decision now, being that a lot of schools are test optional. And so I would encourage you to still really focus and, as they say, kind of hunker down, use your Khan Academy resources to take advantage to prepare for that test. Even if, let's say, that your results don't yield the results where you send them in to the schools you may apply to if they are test optional, like Montclair, but it really will give you a jump start on some of that standardized test information I mentioned in my presentation, because that is one of the requirements. There is a standardized test requirement in New Jersey for teacher education, which I know all of us have mentioned in our respective programs, whether you are doing it pre-applying like Montclair, or you're doing it within your time like Seton Hall and TCNJ alluded to within your program. And so having those, really doing that work and doing your best on those SATs can take kind of that first hurdle, and you can already have that done coming into our institution. So I really encourage that you spend the time right now to, as you're preparing for college, you're preparing on all fronts. You're strengthening those writing skills to make sure you have strong essays in writing, because those are going to be very important in the courses you do with us. You're asking questions as you're going to these schools to learn more about what we have to offer. We talked about what each of our respective schools offer, but making sure it meets your individual needs, because there are things, as you heard, that are uniquely different. But again, you're making sure you're preparing yourself to be able to be prepared for your future in education by getting that standardized test done and in front of you as well.
So what could high school students who are interested in teaching do that would support the experience of teaching? So prior to college, they want to be teachers. What experiences could they embrace to really hone that I want to be a teacher drive? Other than join JFA, which they shouldn't. Thank you, Jeannie, but I'll pass it to Joe. Joe raised his hand.
From where I live in New Jersey, I think one of the things that we have is, I would say, volunteer working with community, volunteer, whether that is I live in Central Jersey. So I would say volunteer in your local 4-H, work with children, work at day camps, work summer camps, get job at your YMCA, tutor. Those are all give you experience dealing with different students, different type of people. It improves your communication skills. It improves your ability to think broadly. And I'm a big 4-H person, which, people don't realize New Jersey has a massive 4-H program that will teach students how to be responsible, and they make them present in all these skills that will benefit teachers. It's an amazing program in the state. But again, we have summer camps. The little town that I live in always hires high school students to work summer camps. And it builds a sense of responsibility, empathy, understanding, all those skills which will benefit a teacher.
Did anyone want to add to what Joe just said? I think this is so great.
Just spend time with kids. Just spend time with kids.
I was going to say, also think about your siblings. A really good example I gave to some high school students recently is that if you have younger siblings, you're helping them with homework, you don't realize you're working some of those theories and practices as well with your siblings just right there. So, or even I have an older grandparent that I'm constantly teaching fundamental skills we take for granted, like working an iPhone or an iPad. But doing those kind of things where you're teaching skills and you're working on taking things that are simple and breaking them down so someone can understand something that could be complex to them.
Those are great examples, Danielle. I'm going to adopt them, but I will give you credit for them when I
No problem.
Well, I was just thinking too, I have a senior whom I have never taught, but she's in my homeroom, and she just walked into my classroom the other day and she's like, I want to be a teacher and I want to talk to you about it. And it was awesome. And so something you could do is also talk to your educators and kind of wrap your mind around like what it is to be a teacher and learn while you're learning, which I think is always really powerful to be metacognitive. Another question we have, which is less for our high school students, but for our current college students who are kind of approaching clinical work and their internship, how do they balance their internship, their clinical work with their college requirements and their courses and life? Like, what's their recommendation for how to balance really being a professional interning and then also still being in school?
I don't have like a good, like spend X% of time on these kinds of things. What I would say is remember to breathe and remember to take care of yourself, take a yoga class, go for a walk, because you're going to get through it. Everybody will get through this, and you're going to get through it better if you are taking care of yourself and giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. It's also people who want to be teachers are typically often people who have been good at school. It's come naturally to them. They've done pretty well, not in every area, but in a lot of areas, they've done a good job at school. And being a teacher is so different, and you're not going to be perfect at it the first time. It's not going to be something you're immediately great at, no matter how many times you played school with your friends. So you're going to have to make sure that you give yourself the benefit of the doubt, give yourself room to grow, recognize and reflect, and know that it's okay and you're going to get through it.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing that I think is the most important? Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. So many students get so upset if they do something wrong or make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't be, because that's how you get better. So that's my biggest tip. Don't be afraid to fail.
An actor came to my class, Greek drama and Shakespeare class, and something he said resonated with all of us. He said, my success as an actor is that I've learned to fail miserably, and get back up and do it again. And I was like, that's exactly how I feel as a teacher. And because there's success in that, right? In terms of the process and not the product. But so the process of going into education has looked very different over the years. And particularly in the last 2 years, we've had to shift quite a bit. So I'm sure you anticipated this question, but given COVID-19 and the pandemic, how has the last few years changed how we see teaching? Who wants this one?
It's hard. I can start. I mean, it's hard. Like it's not back to normal yet. Like nothing's back to normal. We're still, figuring things out. We're still wearing masks. We're still checking vaccine records. And that's right. And we're still, I think one of the huge things I've noticed, not only among teacher education students, but with K-12 students and higher ed students, is we are in a mental health crisis. And so one of the things we need to do, we teach our students about mental health first aid before they go out in the field. And we're doubling down on that. We have to make sure that our prospective teachers are prepared to think about their own mental health and also the mental health of their students. And of course, we're incorporating a lot more technology into our never going back to it. So there's a lot more technology in teaching strategies.
I was going to say, we're also getting creative in how we're working with students, where we're using the pivot of COVID and how we change our operations is not a pivot that will be temporary. It's a pivot that will be permanent. So we're trying to make it much more convenient and meet students where they were before they were meeting us. And I think that's the important thing of being more accessible and open for our students indifferently than maybe we were before. And that's going to really help to kind of answer those things a little more timely, like mental health things we're identifying and being able to put them in contact with the resources and services our institutions provide. So maybe we're a little more intrusive than we were before, which is rather important because in kind of the climate that we're in and going forward.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also changed, not just dealing with students, but also with parents. We as teachers, are more in tune or more accessible to parents now than ever before. And even at the collegiate level, we deal with parents who will reach out to us. Yeah. And that has changed, and it will stay that way because we have become a technology society. We walk around with a computer in our pocket. We check it all the time. And our students do the same thing. And it has to change the way we teach too, because our students want information now. They don't want to wait. They can look at it, and it's changed. But it's our job, and I don't know, I feel we're 24/7, and Kim, you probably feel the same way. We're never disconnected.
Yeah. Well, speaking of our connection to our profession, I go to school every day. I don't go to work because I'm constantly learning, and I remind my students of this. Maybe that's part of my legacy, but I'd really be curious as to big final question here. What do you hope to be your legacy as a leader in education? And this is for each of you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
A huge focus on relationships, creating relationships, sustaining relationships. I think about innovation. I want us to think creatively about what we can do differently. So we're not just recreating what we've always done. And diversity. We are in a crisis in the state of New Jersey. It's a national crisis, but it's kind of exacerbated here, where too many of our teachers are white, and we do not reflect the diversity of the state of New Jersey, the racial and ethnic diversity, the linguistic diversity, and we all need to do a better job at that. And that requires that innovation and those relationships.
I was going to say, I think that Suzanne kind of took a lot of what I was going to say, but I think that's important, is that for me, it's about creating, like she said, relationships, but having kind of that openness, creating safe spaces for students and staff. And I think it goes both ways, because the more we have those environments for ourselves, we're better to be able to help the students we work with. So I recognize, yes, there's a strong need of diversity. And so how can I use maybe unique resources to bridge those gaps in my own personal community within my profession? And so I look to do that more, where I can create new relationships or create new exposures, new thought processes, new opportunities for Montclair and for education more over higher ed in the future. So I just try to be that voice, be that listening ear, be that shoulder to cry on, or be the person that has the tissue for those students who may just need someone that feels like they understand them, to feel like they are willing to hear them and not just listen, but really hear them and let them know that honestly, it'll be okay. And that if they don't make all life decisions today, because I try to tell students all life decisions don't have to be made today, and you have time to make them, that they have somebody who's willing to be a part of the process with them as they go along that journey.
Good. Oh, I like that. You guys got great. I want all that, but I also want to be known as somebody who was willing to be creative, willing to listen. And I want to be known as somebody who, when they think of me, I instilled in them the thirst for knowledge and always wanting to do more and be a valuable member of the community. That's what I want to be remembered as. And I think that's what we all want to do.
Yeah, Danielle, Susan, Joe, our future educators are in good hands with the three of you and all of our educator prep programs in New Jersey. I'm grateful to be a product of that as well. So thank you so much. It was really nice connecting with all of you. And then I'm going to pass the baton back to our fearless leader, Jeannie, over there with our final round of questions on our call. Thank you everyone for being with us. Back to you, boss.
It has been wonderful hearing from all of you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully the students are getting a little bit of insight on things that they need to start thinking about and how higher ed works. We really are one big community, so we are willing to help you no matter what. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. So in the meantime, we have our common questions that we ask every person who visits us on the speaker series. And so they're a little bit strange, but we like to have a baseline for everyone. So does anybody want to volunteer to go first? Lightning round. Anyone? All right, Suzanne, here we go.
I'll do it.
So this is rapid fire questions. Don't think too hard about it. Just put it out there. Okay. What's your favorite word?
Grace.
What's your least favorite word?
Quarantine.
If you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
I would like to add time to the day.
What was your favorite subject when you were at school?
Oh, English, definitely English. I'm right in your classroom, Kim.
What subject or grade level do you wish you'd taught?
Oh, I told you I taught middle school, but I wish I taught kids a little bit younger, like 4th or 5th grade.
Okay. What grade or subject level would you not want to teach?
I love you high school teachers, and my husband's a high school teacher, but I don't want to teach seniors in high school. They don't want to be there anymore.
All right. What sound or noise do you love?
Water, like waves or a storm or anything with water.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Metal on metal,
Ooh.
screeching sound.
If someone were to play you in a movie version of your life, who would you want it to be?
Rita Wilson, so Tom Hanks could play my husband.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I think like maybe a baker, but also maybe a coder. I was a little bit too late for that, but I like the logic of it and the
Okay.
creativity of it.
All right. And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well, that's a surprise. No. But I would like to hear God say, your loved ones will be so happy to see you.
Oh, very good. All right. Next.
I'll
All right,
take a shot
Danielle,
at it.
here we go. What's your favorite word?
Dream.
What's your least favorite word?
Failure.
If you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
Oh, could I be like a genie where I can just like I dream a genie, go invisible, and then come back?
Sure. What was your favorite subject when you were at school?
I actually liked graphic design. I actually designed my high school yearbook. So I was heavily into graphic design.
What subject or grade level do you wish you taught?
If I ever were to teach, which ironically I've had many people tell me that in my life, if I did, it would be high school. I actually like that age dynamic. I volunteer and mentor a lot with that group.
Okay. What subject or grade level would you not want to teach?
The little babies, they're adorable, but I don't know if I could do it for 7 hours or 8 hours.
With a whole 20 of them, right?
I always say to students who want to do it, I said, they have the passion. I said, I commend you because they're a group of students who have need and you really can instill a really great foundation. And I know how my 3rd grade teacher was my favorite teacher ever. But the patience, I will say, I commend.
All right. What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of laughing babies. I think it is, I'm obsessed with watching those videos on Instagram of the kids that kind of laugh and the chuckle. And it's the innocence of it, the purity, the excitement that they have, that it's almost like it's inspiring.
All right. What sound or noise do you hate?
Ironically, whistling, because I cannot whistle. It actually incites me to try, and then I always feel embarrassed because I can't do it. So if anybody has whistling lessons, I'm open. It hasn't worked yet, but there's always a way.
If someone were to play you in a movie version of your life, who would you want it to be?
I guess I would have to say Taraji P. Henson. I like her because she's able to pivot to different type of roles. So she can be probably my fun and adventurous side, but she could also be very emotional and transformational. So I really do appreciate her as an actress.
And about to be Miss Hannigan too in the new Annie, right?
Yes.
All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Actually, my dream, if I wasn't a graphic designer, believe it or not, I wanted to be Jerry Maguire. I wanted to be a sports agent. So at a point in undergrad, I took many business courses to do a rising program in my undergrad school that was coming out to be a sports agent. So if I could have, I would have been Jerry Maguire, but I would have wore pants. If you watch the movie.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome. I'm glad you're here.
All righty.
Very nice.
Joe, you ready?
Yep.
Here we go. What's your favorite word?
Laughing.
What's your least favorite word?
Pivot.
If you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
Be able to fly.
What was your favorite subject when you were at school?
Oh, that's easy. English.
What subject or grade do you wish you had taught?
Probably 4th grade.
What subject or grade level would you not want to teach?
Anything below 3rd.
What sound or noise do you love?
Birds chirping.
What sound or noise do you hate?
That screech on a chalkboard.
If someone were to play you in a movie version of your life, who would you want it to be?
Dan Aykroyd.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
A writer for Rolling Stone magazine.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Hey, how you doing?
Right. Thank you so much, everyone. It has been wonderful seeing you and talking with you. And if any of our students have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Other than that, we will see everyone in December. Have a great Thanksgiving and enjoy your time.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Stay healthy, stay happy. We'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.